All right, you guys. So this is about story number 6 in the collection, Jumping Monkey Hill. Um, I love Jumping Monkey Hill. I love Jumping Monkey Hill because in this one you have Adichie writing about an author. And because of that, the whole story is almost this like pulling, the curtain back on Adichie's authorial choices, but then just also some of the struggles and issues that Adichie herself has come up against being a writer from Nigeria. And she says that in some ways in an interview somewhere that bits of this are actually kind of autobiographical. If you've watched the TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, I believe it's in that one. You'll see little bits of that here. So there are moments where she is putting herself in this story to show you what it's like to be her and try and get a piece of writing authenticated and been made valid by the powers that be. But then also just the choices she makes along the way in a piece of writing. Okay. So first I want to talk about setting for this one. So you have Ujunwa, who is our major character, who is our primary character in the story. And she is heading to Cape Town, specifically to a hotel called Jumping Monkey Hill for this writers' conference. Writers all over Africa from many different countries are all coming for this 2-week, I believe, conference in South Africa at Jumping Monkey Hill. The first thing, in the first few paragraphs, right, she will spend a little bit of time describing the setting. This is super duper important. She'll never use the word colonialism, but what she's trying to do here is show you that you have all of these people from all of these different places in Africa coming to this tourist resort, coming to this place where black maids keep everything tidy and where the food on the menus is obviously, it has a lot of like British remnant. Okay. The leader of the writers' conference is a white British male who had a residency, who was a guest lecturer at Cape Town University for a while, but he is not a South African man. He is not an African man. He is coming from, the white Western world to lead this writers' conference. There's that's also never directly stated, but it's implied in the second page when it talks about his British accent and these types of things, and the British Council making all of these choices. Okay, so you have this white man leading this conference of African white writers at this very touristy hotel. And so what you have is a microcosm, and we've used that word before, but you have this setting as a microcosm, right? Like the remnants of colonialism. She's setting the scene to talk about how the colonial gaze affects the Africanness or the validity of particular writing. This is especially, if you've read that article, like How to Write About Africa, the Granta article, the pre-reading, you'll see that here for sure. And if you haven't, I really encourage you to read it. Okay. So the setting, without directly, saying so, lays a lot of thematic groundwork for you. Okay. Then the next thing you want to pay attention to is what we call author surrogate. You saw a little bit of this in A Clockwork Orange when Anthony Burgess inserted himself kind of as F. Alexander. When an author inserts himself or herself into the work, that's called author surrogate. But in this story, you have it happening at 2 levels. There's 2 levels of author surrogate. The first is that Adichie creates Ujunwa. Okay, and Ujunwa goes through some of the things that Adichie herself has gone through. So that's the first level of author surrogate. Adichie writes a character named Ujunwa, but you also watch Ujunwa write a character called Chioma. And Chioma, or Kioma, I'm not exactly sure, I'm taking a guess, but Chioma is that second level of author surrogate. It's almost like character author surrogate, okay? So you have Adichie writing Ujunwa and Ujunwa writing Chioma. And so Adichie is pulling Ujunwa's puppet strings and Ujunwa is pulling Chioma's puppet strings. And you get to watch both of them, both Adichie and Ujunwa, and through Ujunwa, you kind of see Adichie showing you how she makes some of her choices along the way. So that's called author surrogate, and I want you to pay attention to that. And then the next thing that is killer is called synecdoche. That's how you say that word, synecdoche. And synecdoche is I put the definition there for you, right? It's this figure of speech where a part is made to represent the whole or vice versa, as in Cleveland won by 6 runs, meaning Cleveland's baseball team. Here, you will have that happening for every author, the Kenyan, the Ugandan, the Senegalese woman. You don't get their names. They're identified by country. This is significant, okay? And it's something you want to pay attention to, right? You have these individual people being the voice for their particular country. That's limiting and limited, right? But also this idea that it's also kind of a good thing because it forces you as a reader to realize, right? Adichie is kind of calling us all out that not all African writers are writing about the same thing, right? Our experience is vast. Our countries are different, right? Africa is a continent, not a country. She's had that. She talks about that in one of her TED Talks, the idea that, Africa kind of gets wrapped up in this kind of homogeny that is not real. And so in one sense, by calling every character by using synecdoche to identify every character, she kind of calls attention to the diversity of Africa as a continent, right, made up of many nations and many cultures and many languages and many people, but also the limitation of hearing from one voice as a representative of that country, culture, language, etc. And so she plays with this synecdoche, and I think it has a lot of really interesting effects. You'll also see how her femininity becomes an issue in the story, and it's something that she both like feels creeped out by. It's a little cringy, but also she finds herself wanting to be desired and desirable. So she's playing with this whole like, to what extent do my feminine wiles construct my identity, et cetera, et cetera. And then essentially, right, this whole story, gets us to the point, where we're trying to ask ourselves, well, what is a true story? What is an African story? What makes a story African enough or authentic enough or real enough? And it ends. I love the way it ends. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. Kind of with a, oh dang, right? And this is what my story is, and here you go. I hope you like it. It's not a hard story to understand, but to talk about its construction in an academic way does require some specific language and some specific concepts, though I don't think reading it would be a difficult thing to do. I do just think that there are some nuanced things that you're going to want to pay attention to as you read it. And I, again, look forward to talking to you about it. See you soon.